Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the security risks of Terraform deployments. But we're not just running through an admin checklist. Oh no, we're going to look at your infrastructure straight through the eyes of a hacker. We want to know exactly what vulnerabilities they're hunting for when they scan your repos, and more importantly, how you can definitively lock them out. Let's get into it.
So consider this massive question. If your entire infrastructure is just code, what happens when that code is compromised? With modern DevSecOps, the stakes are totally different. In the world of infrastructure as code, or IAC, a single flaw doesn't just crash an isolated app. It literally hands over the keys to your entire cloud.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, the infrastructure as code risk. Second, spotting bad security smells. Third, the danger of state files. Fourth, code injection and secret leaks. And finally, securing your cloud infrastructure.
Section 1, the infrastructure as code risk. Let's look at the immense power and vulnerability of these tools. To really grasp the risk, you gotta understand the power at play here. Infrastructure as code is fundamentally declarative. That means you literally just tell the system, hey, I want 5 servers hooked up to this specific database, and Terraform figures out the rest. It automates all that tedious provisioning that used to take hours in a manual console. And it's cloud agnostic, working across AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, you name it. But because it controls the whole shebang, those configuration files, they are an absolute goldmine for attackers.
And the sheer scale of the target is wild. Look at this. Terraform is used by 10 times more IT professionals than legacy tools like Puppet. With that massive market share, Terraform essentially has a giant, glowing bullseye on its back. Attackers know for a fact that if they master Terraform-specific vulnerabilities, they can crack into a massive number of enterprise environments all over the globe. Section 2, spotting bad security smells. Let's talk about finding those vulnerabilities before the hackers do.
So, what are attackers actually looking for? Well, a recent academic study from researchers at the University of Luxembourg defined these as security smells. They aren't just one-off bugs. They are recurring patterns, structural weaknesses within your code that stick around for ages across cloud ecosystems. Hackers absolutely love these smells because they usually point to much deeper systemic flaws in how an engineering team runs their setup.
Now, the attack surface here is way bigger than we used to think. Early research only pointed out 7 deadly sins of infrastructure code. But modern analysis of tools like Terraform, it's uncovered a staggering taxonomy of 62 distinct security smell categories. That is 62 different ways an attacker might try to pry open your cloud environment.
Let's break down a few of their absolute favorites. They're scanning your files for command injection, right? That's where unsanitized user inputs get passed directly into system commands. They're also hunting for code injection to slip in arbitrary instructions, like sneaking malicious Python code right into your deployment. Then there's the classic outdated software versions, leveraging old third-party components with known exploits. And get this, they even look for inadequate naming conventions. They know that if your team uses lazy, non-descriptive names, it totally messes up security audits, letting the attacker just hide in plain sight. Moving on to Section 3, the danger of state files. This is the core vulnerability.
This brings us to a massive divide in Terraform security: local versus remote state. By default, Terraform stores its state file locally on whatever machine is running the code. Local state comes with a super high risk of accidental deletion. It has absolutely zero built-in locking to stop concurrent updates, and it's just a nightmare to share safely. Remote state, on the other hand, is managed in a shared backend. It supports state locking so engineers don't overwrite each other, and it fundamentally boosts security with encryption.
You really have to view the state file as the master map. It connects your declarative code to your actual real-world cloud resources. If an attacker grabs an unencrypted local state file, they see exactly how your entire infrastructure is wired. And worse, if that file gets corrupted, say because multiple people tried to update it at the same time without a lock, you literally lose control of your deployment. It is a full-blown critical infrastructure failure. This is exactly why security experts practically scream at you to use remote state storage for production. In a rock-solid AWS setup, for example, your Terraform state file lives securely in an S3 bucket, which handles encryption and centralized access. But the real magic is coupling it with DynamoDB.
DynamoDB handles the state locking. That means while one person is updating the state, nobody else, especially not a malicious actor trying to force a conflicting change, can touch it.
Section 4. Code injection and secret leaks. Let's see how they try to extract your secrets.
We need to connect these security smells directly to the exploits hackers actually use, and then map out the fixes. If an attacker sniffs out hard-coded secrets, boom, their exploit is immediate unauthorized cloud access. The fix? Dynamic secret management tools like Vault or AWS Secrets Manager. What about lax access controls? That leads straight to privilege escalation, which we stop cold with strict role-based access. And if your environments are unsegmented, attackers will use that for lateral movement across your systems. To fix that, you use workspaces or directories. Let's zoom in on that lateral movement piece for a second. Hackers know perfectly well that dev environments are usually way less secure than prod. So if you don't segment your environments, a breach in a low-level dev client is just going to cascade right into your production systems. You absolutely must maintain strict isolation using distinct directories or workspaces. This ensures a breach stays contained.
All right, I have to hammer this home. Never, ever hard-code secrets in your IAC scripts. Passwords, API keys, database credentials. If they are sitting in plain text in your repo, you've basically handed the attacker a gold mine. It instantly bypasses every single other security measure you have. So that begs the big question. How do we actually handle credentials securely at scale? Which brings us to Section 5, securing your cloud infrastructure with DevSecOps defenses. The ultimate answer to hard-coded secrets is dynamic credentialing. Instead of handing Terraform permanent keys, we bring in HashiCorp Vault to act as a secure middleman. Vault generates dynamic, short-lived credentials on the fly. Because of this, Terraform never actually stores a permanent key. So if an attacker gets in and reads the code, they find absolutely nothing they can use. Here's how this dynamic dance works, step by step. First, Terraform asks for Vault for access. Second, Vault checks the request and pings the AWS Security Token service. Third, AWS spins up a temporary IAM role, one that might literally only exist for a few minutes. Fourth, Terraform uses that temporary role to provision the resource, like an EC2 instance. The second the job is done, those credentials vanish into thin air, leaving zero footprint.
So let's put it all together. Your ultimate DevSecOps defense against those 62 security smells looks like this. You enforce remote state storage with built-in locking. You use Vault or AWS Secrets Manager so there are zero hard-coded secrets. You grant strict, least privilege, role-based access. You make sure your environments are properly segmented. And, drawing on that latest academic research, you implement highly accurate LLM-assisted linters that can automatically catch those specific security smells before your code ever gets deployed. Oh, and one final absolute must-do best practice. Enable state versioning on your remote storage bucket. Look, if a malicious change somehow slips through, or honestly, if an engineer just makes a silly configuration error, versioning gives you a rigorous track record. You can audit exactly what happened and roll back to a known secure state without losing your entire infrastructure map. It's a lifesaver. As we've seen in this explainer, just writing functional code? That's not enough anymore. The researchers hit the nail on the head. Securing this kind of automation means moving way beyond traditional code security. You have to adopt an architectural mindset. You have to assume your IAC tools are prime targets, and you have to understand how these ecosystems inherently shape your security risks. Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question for you to think about. Consider the repositories your team is pushing to production right now. Are your Terraform scripts building an impenetrable fortress, or are they just leaving the back door wide open? Are you still managing state locally with hard-coded secrets, or have you stepped up to a true DevSecOps pipeline? Take a hard look at your code today, because trust me, the hackers already are.